Everything all right?
Yeah, we are live now. They banned Lifeweaver. Um which is crazy. So UM-Flint bans Lifeweaver. Um Purdue Purple has been playing Lifeweaver recently as one of their core backline because they want to have the sustain. And Llama Heist is basically a huge Lifeweaver fan. So banning Lifeweaver out the jump is crazy. Seems like Purdue responded by banning Pharah for UM Maize.
So what type of comp do you expect these teams will be running on this map? Do you think it's going to be a brawl or poke heavy?
It's definitely kind of like a pokey style from Purdue Purple. I know that. The Junkrat is a crazy lock. That's definitely not going to stay. Looking like both teams are going to run Zarya, so they're going to be running like slow rush comps. Though we do have a Freya on the enemy team on the UM Maize. Purdue Purple does prefer to run a Symmetra on this map, I think, as well. And it looks like they're going Juno for a speed ring before potentially switching. Or people
Looks
are
like
just having fun.
It looks like Flint is switching to D.Va, so maybe more of a dive from them.
Yeah, with Freya Genji, Freya controlling off angles, that Freya's going to have a Mercy Pocket, which is a pretty unique playstyle here. We're going to have to see exactly how this goes down. The Squishies may be in trouble in the backline for Freya spam.
The D.Va's gonna have a hard time going up against a Symmetra and a Zarya at the same time.
It does
Not
look
a
like
lot to
Flaminator
do to
is poking
sustain.
a lot.
Seems like Cute
Unfortunate
Bunny
pick.
went down. Just a lot of poke trying to get that D.Va out their backlines. It's taking them down one by one.
Yeah, this is very unfortunate for the D.Va. The D.Va has to find really creative angles to try and be able to push Purdue. But even though UM-Flint actually ended up getting the first pick on the Reaper, imagine missing that. They weren't able to actually close this out because the D.Va did overextend to look for the Ana in the back line.
So do you recommend that the D.Va play more passively, or how do you think that they should
The
build off
D.Va
of
needs to
this?
try and play on the outside to look for angles onto squishies with Genji. But primarily, it's kind of just putting your life in the hands of the Freya to see how much damage she can do.
Seems like a tight battle over the bridge. Freya pushes out and gets taken out by Reaper. For that
Yeah,
early
Purdue Purple
pick.
is just kind of put out up a wall that makes it really hard for UM-Flint to actually get around with their current composition. We do see a Zarya swap from the D.Va, but the Freya also didn't have a Mercy Pocket on the off angle, which made it really easy for Cute Bunny to just walk up and pick her on Reaper. Now, there are 3 ults here for Purdue Purple. It should be a really easy fight for them if they use their ults proactively.
There goes Vortex. Finds a pick on Kiri and on Zarya.
Yeah, trading 3 for 1, only losing your Ana and getting 3 kills for that with just the use of the grab with 88% on the point. This should be a very easy cleanup if there are staggers like this coming out. It's just kind of hard for UM-Flint Maize to do anything about the wall that is Flaminator on the Zarya, and Q Bunny also following up and making it so the enemy tank player Jauki just can't really play the game. The enemy team, UM-Flint Maize, is playing kind of a pokey composition where they'll then dive with the D.Va because they're running Mercy Pocketed Freya. That puts a lot of onus on your Freya to be doing a lot of damage, and you need to have the capability of playing slow so that your team can sustain while your Freya looks for angles. Unfortunately for UM-Flint, Purdue Purple just has a better backline for sustaining. Mercy Kiri is just factually going to be putting out less healing than Kiriana in the backline. And it's much easier to dive them than Kiriana. We do have a game crash. What were you saying?
So overall, do you think that when you're looking at this wall that is Flaminator on Zarya, do you think they should try to speed up or slow down? How do you think that they should be adjusting during this pause period in between points?
It is difficult, all things considered. But I think one of the best things that they could do is either switch to a rush composition to walk down Purdue and try and see if they can burst the sustain that's coming out from the back line, or convert into full dive. But they're kind of half and half. UM-Flint Maize is kind of going half and half. Makes it much harder to be able to do anything. Any of it. We do have a return from the pause. It does seem like this is the composition that UM-Flint Maize has practiced, though. And that is going to make it extremely hard for them to play the game. But we do see a Bastion swap. That could make it easier to try and break Flaminator. Flaminator does overextend, which Flaminator is known as an extremely aggressive player. So is Cubunny69. So we'll see. Yeah, Purdue Purple liking the sim strat, so teleporting to point to just try and hold. The Bastion may be one of the things that can burst this down, but we need to see the target priority on UM-Flint Maize is actually there. We do see that the Reaper does start getting poked down, both with Zarya bubbles used for Purdue. Zarya is low on resources. That Bastion pick is putting out a lot of damage, and we do see the exact thing we were talking about, the pick on the Zarya.
Looks like their Zarya went down just too little too late.
The trade for Purdue actually does make this fight winnable for them, even though they're down numbers, because of the fact that Symmetra has a really easy time holding this point if they're double-pocketed by supports, which is exactly what's happening.
It is very true. It looks like they were able to sustain long enough for those two picks to come back from spawn. Trying to keep that Bastion alive, and Zarya goes down.
Unfortunately, Purdue there had an opportunity to win, but they were still split off. The backline was in the back of the point, and the picks from the front line that were walking back were just kind of cut off by the enemy team's position, but they were able to sustain and stay alive for a decent amount of time.
Got a whole 41% off of points.
Got Revolve spamming sim right clicks, hoping to kill that 1 HP Freya.
And Symmetra's wall goes up, looking to cut off that back half of the map.
Man, Cubunny69. Great play, but Purdue's already down, unfortunately. Purdue just slowly trickling picks throughout the fight, so even with those kills, they weren't able to close out the fight. It seems that the Bastion swap has been a large help for UM-Maize, as well as the Kiriko. Matching the Ana Kiriko backline makes it so that their Zarya can sustain, so that if Flaminator gets bursted down by the Bastion, it's much harder for them to deal with it. And UM-Maize has 4 ultimates up here, with percentage advantage on the point.
Seems like a great turnaround for Maize going into the second point. Purdue is able to secure the points again using the teleporter strategy and just pushes down Maize.
Just very well played tempo-wise by Purdue Purple. They use their Kitsune Rush, and they use it to just completely close out the fight. The enemy team has more ultimates, but they just don't use them. And they don't use them first, and they don't use them in response. So one Kitsune Rush is enough to flip point back. But this is still very bad for them if they do not account for the fact that UM-Maize has practically 5 ults.
From what I've seen of Purple, they are getting very well practiced at that teleporter strategy. They're very coordinated, just pushing straight into the back lines like that.
This is amazing. This is extremely good tempo play from Purdue Purple. They keep using their ultimates first. So because they're using their ultimates first, they're winning these fights. 2 ultimates for 2 ultimates, even though, again, UM-Maize has ultimate advantage. But if Purdue Purple farms an ultimate and uses it before the enemy team...
Looks like we might get Symmetra back before the end of the round. Maybe Reaper. If it gets to that point.
This fight is practically over. Flaminator and Cute Bunny 69 as well as Revolve just putting out massive amounts of damage.
Very impressive turnaround from that stranglehold that Maize had towards the middle of that point.
And this is even better for Purdue Purple considering the fact that Lifeweaver got banned out exactly for the reason why UMA's was having a hard time. The amount of sustain that Lifeweaver can put out and survivability for the entirety of Purdue's team is going to make it easier for them to pull off plays like this in future maps.
Very interesting map. I'm very excited to see how the rest of this game shakes out.
Map 1 does go to Purdue Overwatch. I mean, that was very well played by them. The composition made it much easier for them to react to the playstyle of UM-Maize, and they were using their ultimates first, which is somewhat surprising to me because I've seen them not do that a lot. A lot of the time, they like to use their ults reactionarily and hold them for enemy team ultimates and respond in kind, but that didn't happen. It is now going to be UM-Flint Maize's map and ban initially for Purdue Purple, but Lifeweaver cannot be banned by UM-Maize. The most likely second target based on the compositions is a potential Zarya ban. If they are intentionally targeting Purdue, especially with open profiles in the rule set, that is probably why they're scouting. They saw Llama Heist had a lot of hours in Lifeweaver and expected a Lifeweaver pick to come out from competitive, and that was correct, but that ban is out of the way, so
I've also seen Purple with some very strong dive comps, so I'm curious if they do try to bring that out in one of these other maps.
yeah, that is true. If a map does come where dive is more valuable, they may try and run a Winston comp. Sometimes they are known to try and run a ball composition as well. I think Wu Yang is also unbanned in NECC as of this or last week, which will make this
True,
much
he has
easier as
been.
well.
I don't believe anybody has been banned. I believe Tracer, there was some talk, but that was patched pretty quickly. There's some watches on heroes for known bugs, but other than that, I think everybody is fair game other than those banned.
Yes. Okay, so it seems as though a Widowmaker and Zenyatta got banned, and King's Row is the map that is being locked. King's Row, another map where the Zarya composition would be extremely strong if Purdue was to run it.
I find the bans fairly interesting. I don't have access to the career profiles of the players, but judging from what we've seen last map, they don't seem too heavily targeted based on the strategy we saw in Lijiang.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Purdue Purple, I mean, if it's not broke, they could run basically the exact same comp and have results, except they're probably going to replace the Symmetro with a long range DPS. Now, it will be. We'll see. I mean, Freya would work better. Pharah was banned as well. See, Purdue did ban the Pharah, and we see that UM-Flint Maize also had a Mercy player, so it definitely seems like they do like running Pharah Mercy, and when Pharah is banned, Freya is their secondary option. But potentially we're seeing both here with a Mercy Juno. This is a very interesting composition. It can work. Hazard can make space and cut off the front line from the back line as long as the Hazard understands limit testing, understands the actual HP pool that he has. And then the Freya and the Pharah, with Mercy being able to cover both of them, should be able to find angles to do a lot of spam damage to squishies. Hazard can be covered by Juno if Juno plays high grounds as well. Purdue is actually going to have to play extremely proactive here to not give them long-range DPS space.
Doors open, a Hazard gets hosed down and switches to Zarya pretty quickly there.
That's true. I think the Zarya switch makes their composition a little worse here. But they are rotating the high ground
like
immediately.
They tried to exit. Pharah pushes a Sojourn a bit back, still keeping high ground.
This is going to be one of the harder matchups for the Purdue Zarya comp here. The Far Mercy is something that specifically needs to be marked by the Sojourn.
Sojourn seems to try to hold ground, but between the Freya's take aim arrows and Pharah's rockets, they seem to be poking in and out, trying to look for something.
Cute Bunny really committing to trying to get these squishies, but of course with Juno Mercy, it's going to be much easier for them to peel for them. And Pharah as well as Freya are highly mobile. So it's going to be hard to get on top of them. Weirdly enough, what Purdue wants to do here is exactly what you just saw. The Zarya is one of the best heroes on their composition to mark the Pharah. The Freya should be marked by the Reaper and the Sojourn, but the Zarya has some of the best tools to mark the flying characters on the enemy team. But I think Zarya is focusing a little bit too much on the backline support squishies and the enemy Zarya. Purdue is down on ults here, as there's a barrage and a bola shot from the Freya. I could not remember Freya's ultimate name. Yeah, Purdue is going to be facing up against potentially 5 ultimates here with their 4. Massive pick at the beginning as well, though.
I've seen Barrage used as a very strong counter ultimate. How do you feel like it could be used here?
I think the Pharah should be using, well, this is, wow. That was 4 ultimates from UM-Maize to kill a Life Weaver. I was going to say that I think the Barrage should be used extremely aggressively while pushing angles with Freya and Mercy to just look for a quick pick on a backline squishy. But you can't use it at the very beginning of the fight. You have to poke the Zarya out first so you don't get zoned. We do see an Ashe switch from Revolve specifically probably to mark the Pharah easier.
Looks like a trade going to a 4v4. With Purdue having a bit more of a walk back from spawn.
Cute Bunny, I see, has died, I think, 3 times with Wraith form. Just really wanting those kills. Unfortunately, Purdue does seem to lose out that fight after trading some picks. The Pharah on the enemy team is actually not even having an extreme amount of impact. It's just that the space zone from everyone having to look at her is getting a lot of value here.
It looks like Reaper takes down Pharah up on high ground.
Kind of an insane pick from Cute Bunny here.
And they tried to wall off Reaper. With that Wraith form, Reaper can just go right around.
Yeah, these walls are not hitting yet for UM-Maize, and the Mei is an admirable play to focus down the frontline Zarya, but you see right there, Lifeweaver can always just grip the Zarya, so even if you hit a wall, you have to think about the Lifeweaver being able to peel. I do think the Freya is much better for their team composition in terms of who they can actually poke down. Fortunately, a big pick onto Cute Bunny. But Purdue does have 2 ultimates. If this fight goes on too long, though, UM Maize may counter by ulting first, and we know how powerful that is. Wow. Zarya put to 1 HP by the barrage, but gripped away and gets an Ononade. Still a 5v5 due to the trades. Lifeweaver Tree does come out, and it makes the grab not effective.
We do get 2 picks from Reaper. And down goes Juno.
And what we see here is that UM-Flint Maize does not have a succinct answer to the 2 distinct cores of our team. There's the Reaper Zarya frontline hold, and the Reaper does flank as well to pressure squishies, and then there's the backline. The backline of the Flaminator trying the Zarya trick to get up to high ground with double right clicks. The backline of the Ashe and both supports also answer the Pharah, and neither of these has been specifically addressed by UM-Flint Maize. I guess these things are addressed sometimes when Cute Bunny walks in and dies, but half the time when Cute Bunny walks in, Cute Bunny also gets a kill. So it's really just a 50-50 coin flip at this point. We do see a graph come up from Flaminator. Onto ceilings. Flaminator loves doing that. Terrain grabs are good, but I think Flaminator thinks they're the favorite thing of the game. Flaminator does not want to grab unless it's a grab onto a wall or a ceiling. Ooh, a Bob mid-fights to try and be able to actually contest the cart, but the Bob misses. Oh my goodness, the Lifeweaver grip to try and put the Bob onto point, but the Bob is still not on point. A Nano here to contest with an emergency Reinhardt swap to try and recontest the point. It is a 2v4. Now it is a 2v3 with Purdue having spawn advantage. It's going to immediately turn into a 3v3 here, and this is so much better than for Purdue than it is for UM-Flint Maize. UM-Flint Maize needs a pick in the next 3 seconds or it's over. It's 4v3. The pick is not coming. The pick comes for Purdue. And easily they're able to close out this part of the round.
Very strong swap from Flaminator in that last part.
To get to the point and contest the cart, it was massive, especially with the nano boost. Being able to pick off the Mei just makes that fight pretty won at the end. As well, there was a little bit of funny, silly ultimate usage with the Bob coming out, not touching the cart, and then Lifeweaver dying to try and pull the Bob to the cart, and the Bob not touching the cart. So it was one of the world's biggest cosmetic Bobs, but that's all right. We love Bob here.
Maywall came out to block off Bob as well to try to prevent any future picks while they pushed in as far as they could. Ultimately, it was fruitless.
True. Purdue just kind of repeating the same composition that's been working for them. We do see a switch from UM-Flint Maize. Looks like a little bit more of a brawly composition, though Lawless Druid seems to love having Serotonin or ZMOs as pocket targets. So it seems like the Mercy is a big core of this team, but it does put a lot of pressure on those DPS, and unfortunately I don't think they're playing aggressively enough to merit the pick.
I am curious to see how having Cassidy and a Reaper in their backlines will change how Cute Bunny tries to dive some of the squishies.
The Cassidy will help to deter this Reaper. Just like that. As a trade, Revolve getting a pick on the high ground, also getting Bubble, looking for more. But the enemy team is looking for Revolve as well. Revolve hitting shots, though.
It looks like Maze is just pushed straight back from points.
The Rona Rose at the point. Revolve is playing Shooting Simulator. Revolve is super uncontested on this high ground. Revolve's only job is to do damage. Reaper does contest, but it doesn't really matter. Coach gun away and the Reaper is useless.
Can Reaper touch point? Reaper is falling back. Zarya trying to take some space with Reaper as well. Trying to clear out that choke point before the cart reaches it.
Reaper does contest on high ground. Bubbles are being used by UM-Flint Maize. Flaminator trying to extremely aggressively take the space, but does not have the Reaper with them. The cart is not moving. Lifeweaver does back up and push the cart. Both Zaryas looking for the backline squishies is much better for Purdue Zarya, though. And that's another pick for the Ashe.
Nano comes out on Zarya.
Raph to trade. Sleep on the Zarya, but oh, someone woke up Ice Queen sleep. Just an overall clean fight for Purdue. Now, I'm curious, as a statistics person myself, I'm curious, how many times has Cute Bunny died in this match? 6 times. That's less than I expected, to be completely honest, because I do feel like it is a 1 to 2 chance between just dying on the walk-in or killing the enemy team. Speaking of, we're about to witness one of those two results in this play.
It looks like
and it is dying on walk-in. We do see Graf coming out for the UM-Flint Maize with a Bob coming out for Purdue. Revolve going on an off angle here. This could be a massive off angle. Kills Diana. That's 1. That's 2 for Revolve.
Revolve is very strong on the Ashe.
They can't even push Revolve out of the position. This is going to be coming up on Final Fight. Cute Bunny does have a Death Blossom here to try and finish out the map. There are no ults for UM-Flint Maize. Reaper is the closest, but if Reaper gets picked here, it's going to be... Oh, and that's the map. That is the map for Purdue Purple.
Can't get a touch in on time.
I do not know where I am. I was in the void, waiting for play of the game. Yeah, adapting to switch from the Sojourn because the off angles felt less able to be held with the Freya poke to Ashe was an extremely good choice by Revolve. As well, Ice was hitting a lot of sleeps, and the nades were helping to pressure the Zarya when the Zarya does push up. The backline basically didn't die for Purdue. The backline kept each other up and were able to get value later through the front line of the enemy.
When switching to Cassidy and Reaper did in fact help to keep Cute Bunny away for a little bit, but ultimately I don't think that it worked out in the end. Cute Bunny still got those picks in there.
Yeah, the 50-50, it doesn't matter if if the ratios put up a little bit differently. If instead of 50-50, it's only 25% of the time, Cute Bunny is dying, but the other 75% of the time, Cute Bunny just kills someone. And that makes almost every fight exponentially easier. Though I do need a compilation made of how many times Cute Bunny has died with Wraith form up. It's going to be UM-Flint Maize's map pick and first ban again. This will be match point for Purdue. I will say I think one of the worst maps they could pick. I don't know the actual map rotation order for what modes can be picked, but I think it's push next. And if UM-Flint picks New Queen Street instead of Esperanza, that will be much worse for the composition that Purdue Purple is running. If they pick Esperanza, it doesn't matter as much. Especially if Purdue wins the first fight and dictate the tempo by being the one to push the robot.
Seems like Purdue Purple has found a pretty strong foothold in this Zarya composition.
Yeah, they're playing it very well. The bubbles are coming out onto the Reaper. The ultimate usage is proactive and it's working. They're getting a lot of value with each ultimate that is being used.
It does look like we're getting a Zarya ban and a Kiriko ban.
Oh. Okay, so like just as stated before, a Zarya ban was going to wait. Who banned the Zarya? UM-Flint.
Yes.
UM-Flint banned Zarya. Purdue Purple responds by banning Kiriko. They were playing Kiriko usually, so I think it's curious for Kiriko to be the ban. They could have banned Mercy or something that made the Pharah or the Freya a threat, but they banned Kiriko, which makes me wonder. I mean, I suppose they could just be running on a Lifeweaver again, and then with the Zarya ban, they run a different tank. And they don't want their nades to be Suzu'd by a Kiriko. But this is going to be really interesting. Purdue could run a ball comp. Purdue could run the same comp, but just with a different tank since Zarya is banned. And it would be probably best for UM-Flint Maize to actually just try and keep running their poke comp that they've been running. The Pharah can work here with the Mercy Pocket. The Freya off angles are going to be extremely oppressive on New Queen Street. And it's going to be hard for a Brawl tank to be able to cover all those angles without lots of assistance and good coordination. We do see a Junker Queen coming out for Purdue. Now, with
Looks
no
like
dedicated speed, that may be hard.
Flint is bringing back out the Hazard that we saw at the very beginning of King's Row.
Hazard with a Bastion and a backline like Moira Juno is going to make Flaminator not want to play Junker Queen for very long. Junker Queen is such an interesting pick with no speed boost, especially on such a long map like this. If they play long range DPS, the angles are going to be so oppressive. I guess the play is to just have the entire team run them down, but you have an Ana Lifeweaver, so that's much harder. We'll see how this actually goes down. Big nades are going to be the win condition here for Purdue Purple, most likely. Or we have Cute Bunny doing Cute Bunny things. Another nade actually does come out, though, as well, and that allows Revolve and Cute Bunny to get a pick.
Both DPS are down. It looks like Juno is going down.
Cute Bunny has
Actually
become
followed by
a
Moira.
surrogate tank for Purdue Purple here because, to be quite honest, it's extremely hard for Flaminator to do anything on this character into that composition. There's really no target unless a knife is hit. That's crazy. That one would have been crazy if the cast flew off high ground. I'm extremely curious to see how Flaminator is going to try and play these fights, playing Queen, especially with the high ground that can be abused by Cass and Bastion. A Diva swap from UM-Flint.
Does seem like Purdue is keeping up with the if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. Very good sleep by Ice Queen here to be able to punish the Diva dive. Effectively, it is a 4v4 now since Diva is out of mech. The entirety of UM-Flint's low, but it doesn't seem like Purdue realizes that, so they don't push out and take that opportunity. Effectively a fight reset with there still being a baby Diva. It also feels like Flaminator is holding this shout for the end of the world. Flaminator has had a couple opportunities to go onto the squishies here, which is rare playing Queen in this map, but Flaminator seemed willing to commit. Good knife hit. And there's the shout, okay, to keep chasing down. It seems like Purdue is simply punishing mistakes much better with their mechanics against UM-Flint right now. Diva overextends, Diva gets punished.
Looks like we have all 5 ultimates going into this fight from Purdue.
Almost gets a pick on the Bastion there, but just, again, seems unwilling to commit. Flaminator could really... The way Flaminator is not seen as a threat by the enemy team, Flaminator could commit immediately into the enemy's backline and just live. But Flaminator's playing a very passive and safe Junker Queen here. Yeah, the general sustain of Purdue's backline is also doing so many favors for them. The enemy team doesn't seem to have the target coordination to be able to punish the high amount of heals coming out from Purdue. I also think Flaminator is allergic to using Carnage.
seem like they've needed it so far.
True.
They've been holding down these angles all by themselves.
This is kind of a brutal map stomp here. The sleep doesn't even get the pick. A venture swap from UM-Flint. Flaminator is just opting to duel the venture. It cannot be understated exactly how much the backline for Purdue Purple is doing here. Massive rampage here from Flaminator, but getting shredded down by the Bastion. As well, Llama Heist did die, so one core part of the backline did go down, and as you can see, the second the core part of the backline went, one of the core parts of the backline went down, Purdue just kind of collapsed. There's no way that Revolve trades there. That's insane. Ice Queen, let's see if they can get out. Venture pushing the cart, and Moira potentially looking to chase Ice Queen. This would be a terrible stagger if Ice Queen gets killed here. But unfortunately, the team is back. Just Tree on the side of Purdue, but no alts on the side of UM-Flint Maize.
It's really just going to take one more strong push from Purdue, maybe two.
Unfortunately, Venture does find Ice Queen, but we do have an overclock from Revolve. Unfortunately, misses one rail, which would have been the way to pick the Bastion. They're so low in there. Purdue backing out, though. The Venture did get traded. It isn't even 4v4. Now it no longer is. Purdue just seems split. Purdue seems really confused on how to approach the D.Va Venture here. Their engage is not coordinated, which, I mean, I suppose the Zarya would make up for that because the Zarya can just hold and do damage and use bubbles for survivability, but the Queen it's much more tempo-oriented here.
Cute Bunny with Blossom and Llama Heist with Tree. Going into Zemos with
massive
artillery.
nade from Ice Queen here. And that's all Purdue needs to just clean this up, especially with no D.Va and Mech. I guess a celebratory Death Blossom from Cute Bunny, even though there's going to be one more fight before they actually potentially cap this point. I think Purdue really would have loved having that Death Blossom for this fight, considering that Venture ult and Ana ult and D.Va ult are going to be up. Potentially on ult if poke lasts too long. Purdue's best chance here is to just run into the enemy team and use Tree. Let's see if they find that angle, though. It seems not.
Could very easily build to a Carnage here if Flaminator just went down.
Yeah, the backline does get dove by Purdue, and we see that they're split. Frontline and backline Purdue split, but they are even. They're actually up now. Revolve just kind of killing the enemy by just clicking on them. Now Revolve with Nano. Revolve gets 3 here. Revolve popping an overclock. Revolve finds 4. Venture is back from the initial dive. But with no tank here, it's going to be hard to clean this up because obviously UM-Flint Maize has spawn advantage. Flaminator is back, but the backline is getting dove.
Does seem like that spawn advantage is keeping them up. Can't push past that second point.
This is an extremely well-timed tree. If a tree needed to come out, it needed to come out right when Llama Heist used it. Very good Lifeweaver gameplay coming from Llama Heist here, actually. Rampage does come out from Flaminator. Coalescence from Lawless to Druid.
Looks like they're doing everything they can to touch.
Ooh, a pull on a 1 HP Flaminator does allow him to survive. Purdue does want to clean this up as fast as possible, though, before any potential ults come up from UM-Flint Maize. Really, it would just be Pulse Bomb or Venture ult. They also have spawn advantage, so, yep. Without picks, you can't really clean this up. Oh, the 5-man nade comes out after Purdue dies. This would be a terrible stagger if it happens. It does look like Ice Queen is going to be caught. Ice Queen does just want to die as fast as possible here. Yep, there's the realization. Cute Bunny is coming up on a Death Blossom. There's 2 minutes left in the map. It's going to be extremely hard for UM-Flint Maize to bring this back. They need to win about 4 fights in a row, especially considering how the bot pauses at forward spawn location. Revolve finds a pick on Tracer.
It's going to be a very long road. Cute
Exactly,
Bunny with
especially
Death Blossom.
They're down 1 right now. If they lose this fight, I say the game is pretty much over. Purdue has better ult economy right now, so as long as they don't just blow all their ults in celebration right now, they should be able to win the next fight extremely easily by just pressing the Q button, especially because UM-Flint Maize is staggering. And it looks like we see that. Cute Bunny is setting up for a Death Blossom. Ice Queen has the Nano Boost, and Revolve has the Overclock. Bomb, Pulse Bomb, and Tectonic Shock, they're just not as high impact ultimates as what Purdue has. And if Purdue uses them first, it's even more so.
1 minute left on the clock.
1-for-1 trade. Yeah, Purdue just cleaning them up. That's crazy. The D bomb gets, oh, a nasty railgun here.
Revolve cleaning up the team.
There we go. They Revolve with 12.2k damage there and 31 elims. Well played from both teams, but that is a 3-0 from Purdue Purple there.
Very well done. Play the game from Revolve.
Well, this one Revolve just kept killing people. Extremely well played from both teams.